Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Timeless Stories. I hope you are having a peaceful day. Today, I want to share a story with you. A thin morning mist sits over the hills of Tuscany. The grass is wet. Olive trees lean gently in the soft wind. Somewhere near the small town of Vinci, a child watches water move over stones. He does not hurry away. He follows the tiny lines in the stream. He sees circles, shadows, and the way light breaks on the surface and returns in pieces. A bird moves above him. Its wings open, close, and open again. The child looks up. He is not only seeing a bird, he is asking a question. How does it stay in the air? This boy will grow into one of the most famous minds in history. He will paint a smile that the world still cannot fully explain. He will draw flying machines long before engines fill the sky. He will study muscles, rivers, plants, machines, faces, and light. His name is Leonardo da Vinci. But here is the surprising thing. Leonardo's greatest gift was not that he finished everything. In fact, he left many things unfinished. He had ideas that never became real machines. He had paintings that took years. He had notebooks full of questions, sketches, mistakes, and dreams. So, what was the real secret of Leonardo da Vinci? At the end of this story, I will share the quiet answer. It is not the answer most people expect, and it may change how you think about learning, creativity, and your own slow journey with English. In this story, we will discover one historical truth. Leonardo lived in a time called the Renaissance. The Renaissance was a period in Europe when art, science, and old knowledge came alive again. We will follow one emotional journey and explore one deeper idea. Curiosity can become a home, even when the world does not fully understand you. So make yourself comfortable and let the story begin. Leonardo was born on April 15, 1452, near the town of Vinci, not far from Florence. His father was Ser Piero, a notary, a legal official who prepared important documents. His mother was Caterina, a young woman from the local area. Leonardo was born outside marriage. In those days, this shaped a child's life. It could close doors. It could decide which schools he entered and which paths he could not take. But a closed door is not always the end of a story. Leonardo grew up among fields, hills, animals, and moving water. He did not receive the same deep classical education that some rich boys received. Classical means based on the old books of Greece and Rome. He learned reading, writing, and basic numbers. But he was not trained like a university's scholar. This may seem like a weakness. For Leonardo, it became a strange kind of freedom. He learned by looking. He learned from branches, clouds, insects, faces, stones, and storms. He watched how water turned when it met a rock. He watched how a leaf opened to the sun. He watched old people's hands and children's eyes. The world itself became his first school. A teacher may tell you what to see. But nature asked Leonardo to look again. This was his first great decision, though he was too young to name it. He chose attention. He chose to stop and notice. And because he noticed small things, he later understood large things. A wing, a smile, a machine, a river, and a human heart. The story did not stay in the quiet hills for long. When Leonardo was about 14 or 15 years old, his father helped place him in the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio. Verrocchio was a respected artist in Florence. A workshop in those days was not only a place for painting. It was a place of noise, tools, wood, metal, dust, color, and fire. Young artists learned everything. They ground stones into color. They prepared wooden panels. They cleaned brushes. They studied the human body. They learned how cloth folded, how metal shone, and how a face changed when a person felt sorrow or hope. In the workshop, art was not only imagination. It was daily labor, patient training, and careful hands. Florence was alive with ambition. Merchants wanted beauty. Churches wanted paintings. Powerful families wanted art that showed faith, wealth, and memory. The city was full of builders, thinkers, goldsmiths, writers, and painters. A goldsmith works with gold and fine metal. Many great artists began this way, because the work trained the eye and the hand. Leonardo did not simply copy his teacher. He absorbed everything. He studied painting, sculpture, music, mechanics, and design. Mechanics means how parts move and work together. He wanted to know why things worked, not only how they looked. In 1472, Leonardo joined the Painters' Guild in Florence. A guild was a professional group that protected workers and controlled their craft. This meant he could work as an independent artist. He was still young, but his talent was clear. There is a famous story from Verrocchio's workshop. Tradition says Leonardo painted an angel in a work called The Baptism of Christ. The angel looked so soft, so alive, and so natural that people later said Verrocchio was amazed by his student. We do not need to believe every detail of the story to understand the truth inside it. Leonardo's eye was different. He did not want flat beauty. He wanted living presence. He watched how light touched skin. He studied the edges of shadow. He learned that a face does not reveal emotion all at once. It whispers, it hides, it changes. This choice had a consequence. Leonardo became more than a painter of surfaces. He became a student of life itself. But talent does not always bring a straight road. In Florence, Leonardo had skill, but he did not yet have lasting security. He had ideas larger than the jobs around him. He loved music and wore fine clothes when he could. He was charming, thoughtful, and unusual. Some people admired him. Some may have found him hard to understand. A mind like Leonardo's does not always fit neatly into one city. Now the journey widens. Leonardo left Florence and went north to Milan. This was a major decision. Florence was a center of art. Milan was a center of power, engineering, war, and court life. Court life means the world around a ruler, with artists, soldiers, advisors, and servants all close to power. The ruler of Milan was Ludovico Sforza. Leonardo wanted his support. He wrote a famous letter to Ludovico. In that letter, Leonardo did not first present himself as a painter of lovely faces. He described machines, bridges, weapons, and plans for war. He said he could design useful things in times of peace and danger. Only near the end did he mention that he could also paint. This tells us something important. Leonardo did not see art and science as separate rooms. He saw one great house, a bridge, a body, a face, a canal, a horse, a flying wing, all belonged to the same search. In Milan, Leonardo worked as artist, engineer, designer, musician, and thinker. He planned festivals. He designed stage effects. He studied water systems. He imagined weapons. He worked on a huge horse monument for the Sforza family. A monument is a large work built to remember a person or event. The horse was supposed to be enormous. It would show power. It would show pride. It would show Milan that Ludovico's family belonged to history. Leonardo studied horses carefully. He drew their muscles, legs, necks, and movement. He wanted the animal to feel alive, not heavy and dead. For years he planned it. He prepared a full-size model in clay. But history is not kind to every dream. War came. French forces invaded Milan in 1499. The bronze planned for the horse was needed for weapons. The clay model was damaged. The great horse was never cast in Leonardo's lifetime. A lesser artist might have disappeared behind such failure. Leonardo kept working. He had already learned a painful lesson. A great idea can be real in the mind and still not survive the world. Money can vanish. Rulers can fall. War can break beauty before beauty is born. But the story did not end with the lost horse. In Milan, Leonardo created one of the most powerful images in Christian art. Inside the dining hall of Santa Maria delle Grazie, Leonardo painted the Last Supper. A convent is a religious house where monks or friars live and pray. The scene shows Jesus at the table with his followers. At the moment he says that one of them will betray him. Many artists had painted this story before. Leonardo chose the instant after the words, not before, not later. He chose the shock. The room is quiet, but the people are not. Hands move. Faces turn. Bodies lean away and forward. Each person reacts differently. One is confused. One is angry. One is wounded. One reaches. One pulls back. In the center, Jesus sits still, alone in the middle of human movement. Leonardo's decision was deeply human. He did not paint only a holy scene. He painted a room full of emotion. A betrayal is not only a religious idea, it is also a human wound. We know the feeling when trust breaks. We know the silence after a hard truth enters a room. Leonardo wanted the viewer to feel that moment. He also made a technical choice. Instead of using the safest wall painting method of the time, he experimented. He tried to paint more slowly and with more detail on dry wall. Experiment means trying a new method to learn what will happen. The result was beautiful. It was also fragile. The painting began to suffer not long after it was finished. Moisture, time, damage, and the method itself made the work weak. For centuries, people tried to save it. This is one of the strange truths of Leonardo. He reached for perfection, but his reach sometimes made his work vulnerable. Still, the Last Supper changed the way people imagined that scene. It gave the old story new breath. It made emotion visible. It made silence speak. If you enjoy stories like this, consider subscribing to Timeless Stories. New stories arrive every week, told slowly and warmly for curious English learners. But Leonardo was not only painting walls, he was filling pages. Imagine a table at night. A candle burns low. Paper lies everywhere. Leonardo's hand moves across the page from right to left. He often wrote in mirror writing. That means the letters go backward, so they are easiest to read in a mirror. Why did he write this way? We cannot know for certain. Maybe it felt natural because he was left-handed. Maybe it kept his notes private. Maybe it was simply his habit. The pages are full of drawings. A human skull, a curling wave, a machine for flight, a baby in the womb, a city plan, a flower, a weapon, a joke, and a list of things to buy. Leonardo's notebooks show a mind that never rested. He asked practical questions. How does the tongue move? Why does smoke rise? How does water destroy a riverbank? What makes a face look old? How does a bird turn in the air? He studied anatomy. Anatomy means the structure of the body. He wanted to understand bones, muscles, organs, and movement. He opened bodies after death and drew what he saw. This was difficult work. It required courage, patience, and a strong stomach. He drew the human heart. He studied the spine. He examined the hand. He saw the body as a machine, but not a cold machine. It was warm. It was delicate. It was full of balance. He also studied the world outside the body. He drew maps. In 1502, he worked for Cesare Borgia as a military engineer. Cesare Borgia was a powerful and dangerous leader in Italy. Leonardo made maps and studied fortifications. Fortifications are walls and defenses built to protect a place. One of his famous maps shows the town of Imola from above. This was not only art, it was information. It helped people understand space with new clarity. Leonardo looked at the world from the ground. Then he imagined it from the sky. This habit changed everything. His notebooks did not become printed books during his life. They did not make him famous as a scientist while he lived. Many of his studies remained hidden for a long time. But they show us his true character. He was not satisfied with easy answers. He returned to questions again and again. He crossed lines that other people kept separate. Painter, engineer, anatomist, musician, mapmaker, dreamer. To Leonardo, These were not separate names. They were different doors into the same mystery, and yet he still had to live in the real world. He still needed patrons. A patron is a rich or powerful person who supports an artist. He still needed commissions. A commission is a paid job to create something. He still had to deal with rulers, wars, money, delays, and expectations. Leonardo's life was not a smooth road of genius. It was a road of starts and stops. He promised projects. He delayed. He moved. He returned. He studied when others expected him to finish. This can frustrate us when we look back. We want the genius to complete everything. We want more paintings. We want the flying machine to fly. We want every notebook to become a book. But Leonardo was not built for speed. He was built for depth. Around 1503, the story returns to Florence. A woman sits for a portrait. Her name was likely Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a Florentine merchant named Francesco del Giocondo. The painting later became known as the Mona Lisa. At first, nothing about the scene sounds impossible. A woman sits, an artist paints, a portrait is made. But Leonardo did not treat a face as a simple record. He treated it as a landscape of the soul. Soul means the deep inner life of a person. He studied how skin meets shadow. He studied the soft corners of the mouth. He studied the way eyes can seem to follow us, even when paint does not move. The Mona Lisa is small compared with many grand works, but it feels endless. Behind her, the land rolls into strange roads, water, rocks, and distant air. Her hands rest gently. Her face turns toward us. The smile is there and not there, warm and distant, open and secret. Leonardo used a method called sfumato. This is an Italian word. It means a smoky, soft blending of light and shadow, so edges do not look hard. With this method, a face can feel alive because nothing is fully fixed. The Mona Lisa took time, perhaps years. Leonardo seems to have kept the painting with him. He carried it later in life. He may have continued to work on it. The painting became famous after his death, and much later it became one of the most recognized images in the world. But we should not look at it only as a famous object. We should look at the choice behind it. Leonardo chose patience. He chose not to explain everything. He allowed mystery to remain. In a world that often wants quick answers, this is powerful. The painting does not shout. It invites. It asks us to stay one more moment. Then one more. Then one more. That is why people still stand before it. They are not only looking at Lisa. They are looking at the space between knowing and not knowing. Leonardo understood that human beings live in that space. We know some things, we hide some things. We smile for reasons even we cannot always name. This was his gift. He painted uncertainty without making it weak. But time was moving. Leonardo was growing older. Italy remained divided by war and politics. Rulers changed. Cities changed. The great artist moved between places. He returned to Milan. He worked for French rulers there. He continued to study water, bodies, machines, and art. His right hand may have become weak later in life, but his mind still moved. King Francis I invited Leonardo to come to France in 1516. Francis was young, powerful, and interested in art and learning. Leonardo accepted. He crossed the mountains into France as an old man, carrying drawings, notes, and paintings. Think of that image. An old artist on the road, not empty-handed, not finished. He carries papers full of wings, bones, rivers, faces, machines, and questions. He lived near the king at a place called Clos Lucé, close to the royal castle at Amboise. He was honored there. He was given a home and support. He was no longer the boy from Vinci watching water, but in another way, he was still that boy. He continued to think. He continued to draw. He continued to ask how the world worked. Leonardo died in France on May 2, 1519. He was 67 years old. He was buried in Amboise. The world lost a painter, engineer, observer, and dreamer. But it did not lose his questions. His paintings remained. His notebooks remained. His strange machines remained on paper. His studies of the body remained as proof that the eye, when trained by love and patience, can become a kind of lantern. A lantern is a small light you carry in the dark. Leonardo carried such a light through the world, but now we must return to the promise from the beginning. What was the real secret of Leonardo da Vinci? It was not that he knew everything. He did not. It was not that he finished everything. He did not. It was not even that he was born with a mind no one else could understand. The quiet secret is this: Leonardo stayed a student for his whole life. That is the expensive idea. Expensive not because it costs money, but because it costs pride. It asks us to say, "I do not know yet." It asks us to stay curious when we want to look clever. It asks us to begin again, even after failure, delay, or disappointment. Leonardo's greatness came from his refusal to stop learning. He looked at water like a student. He looked at a face like a student. He looked at a bird like a student. He looked at the human heart like a student. And this is where his story becomes our story. When you learn English, you may want quick progress. You may want every word to stay in your memory. You may want every sentence to come out perfectly, but language, like art, grows slowly. You listen, you repeat, you make mistakes. You notice small things, a sound, a rhythm, a phrase, a feeling. Then, one day, a sentence that once felt impossible becomes natural, not because you rushed, because you returned. Leonardo teaches us that learning is not a straight line. It is a notebook. Some pages are clear, some are messy, some ideas are unfinished, some sketches seem useless until years later. But page by page, the mind becomes wider. What would happen if we stopped being ashamed of slow learning and began to see it as the very place where wisdom is made? Perhaps every learner carries a small Vinci inside them. a quiet field, a moving stream, a question rising like a bird in the morning air. Leonardo's life ends softly, but not small. A boy watched water in Tuscany. A young man learned color in Florence. A restless artist carried notebooks into France. Between those three images, we see a whole life: attention, courage, and wonder. He did not give the world only paintings. He gave us a way of looking. He showed that beauty and knowledge are not enemies. They are two hands touching the same mystery. Before you go, tell us in the comments. When Leonardo had to choose between a safe, finished life and a restless life full of questions, which would you choose? And which image stays with you most? The boy beside the stream, the painter studying a mysterious smile, or the old man carrying his notebooks across the mountains? If this story helped you feel calm, curious, or closer to English, please like the video and subscribe to Timeless Stories. Your support helps us create more slow, beautiful stories for learners around the world. Thank you for listening, my friends. Keep learning, keep noticing, and keep carrying your little light forward. Until next time, from all of us at Timeless Stories, take care.